Welcome to Truth Behind Travel Podcast, a platform for tourism, travel, and hospitality professionals and enthusiasts to share, learn, and unlearn what we need to create better tourism, protect the environment, and become better humans. I'm your host, Dolores Semeraro, and every week I bring on the podcast the voices of those out there making a difference to learn the hard truth behind the world of travel and tourism, what works and what we can collectively do better. Welcome to Season 4, a series of conversations fully dedicated to women in travel, the trailblazers, the visionaries who have been and continue to be the force for good we need to hear more from. Joining us on the show, I am thrilled to welcome Truth Behind Travel podcast sponsor, Women Travel Leaders. Women Travel Leaders is a community that supports high-performing, purpose-driven travel business leaders to grow their business in less time by fostering a community of heart-led leaders who prioritize authenticity and impact above all else. Are you ready to start thriving in your travel business and your life through connecting with a powerful community that truly has your back? Well, head over to the show notes and on the link, mention Dolores in the referral name to first access when applications open and receive 25% off your first year of membership. Welcome back to Truth Behind Travel. I'm delighted to be back on the podcast today, fresh from all the messages and posts celebrating Women's International Day. And what a better guest to have than a woman who brought her vision to life, starting from a personal experience, leading to the creation of a global platform that aims to offer travel guidance and support to women solo travelers around the world. It's called Greether. Our guest today is a second-time founder, a serial entrepreneur, writer, public speaker, and full-time hustler. Her startup, Greether, was recently selected by Expedia for their Open World Accelerator program, and also as one of the 4 most innovative female empowerment travel companies in the world by the UNWTO Awake Tourism Challenge. Just to give you a bit of context, Greether was amongst the top 15 finalists, over 2,000 companies in this challenge. She was recognized by FocusWire Hot 25 Travel Startup for 2024, and she just won Startup of the Year 2024 at WTM London last November. I could go on, but I think that the best thing to do is to hear it from the founder herself. Today on the podcast, let's welcome Vanessa Karel. Welcome back to the show and welcome, Vanessa. I am excited to have you on the show. I've heard so much about you. We met briefly, and now finally we can have a good chat. Welcome on the podcast.
Thank you, Dolores. Really great to be here, and I'm so happy we were destined to bump into each other. And from the first moment we met, you gave me advice.
Yes, we met briefly. It was literally moments before you get on stage. And you did get on that stage and you won Travel Startup of the Year at WTM 2024. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Shall we start with literally an overview of your journey and what really brought you to the person you are today up to the point of creating Greether?
Well, I am a second-time founder. I think that I've always been an entrepreneur just by nature. And because, a lot of times I really needed to create opportunities for myself. And that has led me constantly to create companies or businesses. However, with Greether, something really interesting and magical happened. I've been traveling solo for a long time, since I was very young. And however, it wasn't until 2020 when the pandemic hit that I found myself in a situation where I kind of got a little stranded in Morocco, and I was really needing a service like what Greether provides, and I couldn't find it. So that kicked off a series of events in which I went through a rabbit hole and started doing a lot of research and writing a lot about this idea of how impactful women traveling the world can be, and the lack of female tour guides globally, and the lack of platforms that help women travel more confidently and safely. And then I realized that I wasn't alone. We're looking for a solution like the one I built. That for me was a moment of like, this is something I really want to pursue. I started interviewing over 500 female travelers, and 90% of them were saying, this is my biggest safety concerns. And I really would like a service that did this and that. And no, so I was like, this is it. I'm gonna do it. So I started, I guess, building Greether as a personal, journey, I guess, because I really wanted a service like this. But then I discovered that more women wanted it as well. And fast forward to today, we have a platform that connects female travelers to local greeters globally, who you can book to navigate destinations in a really safe and authentic way. So all of our services have been designed with women in mind, and female travelers in particular in need. So it's been an interesting journey and super exciting to see it now in action after, being it just an idea at the beginning.
So your trip to Morocco triggered a need, and that need became an idea. The idea became a project, and the project then became a reality. Tell me, how did you turn an idea into a reality? Because this is an entrepreneurial journey, and many of our podcast listeners are working in the tourism and travel industry, and they recognize the challenge of actually making that night, turning an idea into reality. And sometimes that can be also overwhelming. So I'd like to give them the opportunity to learn from you and to actually be inspired by how did you turn an idea into a project that then became so successful?
I love that question because I think many people, and maybe almost everyone, has an idea, for a business or a project, and it all starts with discovering a problem and then coming up with a solution. I think for the first, when you're in idea stage, you need to think about how many people would care for this problem to be solved. And most importantly, will they pay to get it solved? I think that's also a good question to ask yourself. And also, how big is the market opportunity? Because there's a lot of businesses that start trying to solve problems that are for very few people. But what you need to, I think, where there is the bingo moment is like where there's big markets in which a lot of people would benefit from this. I started with sending my idea everywhere and anywhere, Dolores. You have no clue how many pitches I did, and I started writing a business proposal, and I just went on Google and I searched opportunities for idea stage entrepreneurs. And I sent my idea to two incubators in which I got selected in both. One was out of Europe and one was in Silicon Valley. I reside in San Francisco, so it made sense for me to do the one here. Is kind of like a school, like a program, for entrepreneurs, and they help you get from idea from A to B, kind of, And I as I mentioned, I've had businesses before, and I co-founded a company before as well. But this is my first travel startup. This is my first startup in which you have to pitch investors and create a pitch deck. And that incubator helped me understand this world more and network, because I had no network whatsoever. I did not know any single person. I had to build everything from scratch, and I think that's what put me kind of like in the right path.
So when does exactly a startup becomes a business? So how long are you allowed to be called yourself a startup then?
I think when you are already a very profitable business and you're been around for many years, that's a great question, Dolores. And I think, if you think about companies like Meta or Google, you wouldn't think of them as startups anymore, but they were once a startup. Basically, that's kind of like the foundation of the business. And a lot of times, businesses take a long time, especially if you want to scale it at a level like a Meta or of Expedia, And you have to look back to their history. It takes at least 10 years to build a really good, solid business where you can get rid of the startup title for sure.
And when do you want to get rid of yours?
Oh my God, that's a great question too. Hopefully soon. Just kidding. No, I think we still have a road ahead of us. We're still very early stage. I think that Greether is poised to be one of the most disruptive travel companies that's been made, and we're here to stay for a long time, hopefully.
You've started Greether basically out of the incubator in Silicon Valley, and now you have a global platform growing every day with a network of people that comes into the platform and doesn't just act as a tour guide, but they effectively are people that welcome women solo travelers into destinations. And it's women for women, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I discovered, and I think a lot of people and like industry leaders are realizing the huge potential that there is in the female travel industry. It is $125 billion opportunity. Women are making most of the travel decisions, and we are deciding where the money is being spent, even if you're traveling solo or your partner. Our concerns, our biggest concerns, are still not addressed fully in the market, and this is where we come in. It's not just a matter of, oh, it's just for girls, No, it's for the majority of travelers. So that's, every time someone thinks that of Greether as a niche business, I make sure to correct them. We're not a niche business. The majority of travelers out there today in the world are women, and it's really exciting. We all know that. Thankfully, nowadays is the first time ever where women have the most spending power, and women are not longer following the traditional paths of being mothers and staying home and cooking for their husbands. I think women are choosing different lifestyles, and that's showcasing through the travel movement, and a lot of the digital nomads and things post pandemic even expedited this movement even more.
What are the things that they underestimate the most, you think? Like when it's come to travel planning or even just no planning, just in the act of traveling, like when when they are at the destination, when they're moving, when they are exploring, what are the elements that you have recognized are often underestimated and could lead to a potential risk?
I think it really depends on your age stage too. I think Dolores, you and I both traveled when we were really young, and we did the hostel life and things like that. And so I think the factors that you underestimate at that age are completely different to the ones you underestimate in later life. But some of them are just thinking about, I think as a female traveler, you have a responsibility to make sure that you are protecting yourself. Unfortunately, that is the reality. You can not think that. For example, you can do things as finding flights that will arrive during the daylight at the destination that you're traveling to. Really simple things like that really can adjust, how you experience a destination. And also, I think a lot of the times is we're seeking this wanderlust and this like, let me get lost, whatever. Please don't get lost from your loved ones. Make sure that someone knows where you are and where you're gonna be, where you're supposed to arrive. I think it is really important for solo female travelers specifically, and also for we're seeing a rise in senior female travelers as well. And I think one of the things that I see them underestimate too is how exhausting sometimes moving from place to place to place is, even if you're young, right? And I think that it's good to dive into slow travel. I think slow travel is so magical. And currently, with social media and whatnot, we are glamorizing like visiting 10 countries during the summer. And that really doesn't show you the full picture of a place sometimes, and I understand, if you're from North America, you only have like 7 or 13 like PTO days a year, and some of them you want them for a holiday, so you have really short windows. But then I really encourage people to think about how much you want to get out of a place and selecting a place to stay there for like a week, and really get into the culture, meet some local people, try their local food, not just the tourist traps.
It's true. And in many cases, it's the it's the fast pace of travel doesn't just disconnect us from places, but also it exposes us to risks because you move more, you are transferring from place A to place B, often at the mercy of whatever transport system is available at the destination that you are traveling to or that you are exploring. I personally traveled across China, solo traveler. I was 25 and I traveled from the north, from Beijing to the very south, the Yunnan province, and the train ride alone took 3 days. These are things that happened 20 years ago. And I was a bit naive and I was thinking, nothing can happen. And I think that naiveness somehow it's still there. Even if we are, in 2025, as we are recording this podcast, and we have the internet, we have social media, we have all the informations, we manage to put ourselves at risk not to do the homework properly, I guess. And I've seen networks of greeters around the world, particularly in Europe. The greeters are people, most of the time voluntarily, that are very proud of their hometown, and they become this kind of little army of welcoming, tourists and visitors. How is greeter different from them?
We did not invent the term greeter, and it's been a known thing. However, I like to say that our greeters are like a modern concierge slash friend slash tour guide. And how we're different? Well, first of all, the greeter platforms are great, and they're volunteer based. They usually tend to be nonprofits, and one of the things is that, and how as we are going into the future and trying to be more innovative in travel through technology, travelers are looking for flexibility. They're looking for personalization. They want to feel that the only person that they're exploring Paris. They don't want to think of other people being around them. And I think Greet Her, what we do is that we provide you that comfort and peace of mind that you will have someone there. When you go to the greeter platforms, maybe you'll get a response from a greeter that's available. Maybe you won't, because it's volunteer based. They could cancel on you. They're not someone who's going to be as reliable as someone you actually have hired to help you. So actually, also on top of this, we connect you before you even travel to the destination. That's something that greeter platforms don't do. You meet them right there, and then you know who's going to greet you, etc. However, through Greet Her, once you're matched, you have access to this person in this city or this destination who's already there waiting for you, and she's trying to get to know you because she wants to give you the best experience. So everything is personalized as much as you can, and you get all of these expertise pre-traveling, which is so helpful, when you're traveling to a place you've never been to, or you're not sure about the culture, or like, hey, how's the weather? We see a lot of great things come out from these pre-arrival conversations. And you also select the meetup spot, the time length that you want the greeter to be with you. So I think the greeter platforms are great as well for someone on a budget and they work. Everything will be tailored to you, and they have been completely vetted and verified through software and humans. So we also add that layer of safety to a platform. Every single person has gone through a verification process and a training, so they know what they're doing, and they have a protocol they have to follow every time they have an experience, because we're in over 100 countries. So we need to remain a consistency throughout the cities where we're in. So we have created our secret sauce recipe for what our greeters are going to be doing once they meet with their travelers.
So you said that the Greeter network is already present in over 100 countries.
Yes.
And these destinations are destinations where obviously whoever has joined the network feels compelled to welcome, protect, guide, assist visitors. We just talked about elements of safety and travel concerns across destinations, especially as a solo traveler, as a woman solo traveler. In your experience, as you are developing Greether, which destinations have you observed to be more responding to this type of travel pattern?
I don't know the whole world, yet. And I'm still meeting a lot of tourism boards. Actually, one of the reasons why I went to WTM was because I wanted to meet with more tourism boards. And we're now beginning to work with tourism boards and trying to give them travel assessments as to how they're doing with women traveling. So in fact, to mention someone here, because you put me on the spot, Dolores, we did a partnership with Visit Tulum. That's one of the most upcoming destinations. People are traveling all around Europe to there and North America, and it's a hub, right? However, Tulum has been dealing with a lot of really bad reputation as well, and they know that they really need their female traveler community to know that this is a safe place. We give them a certification for their efforts of improving the well-being of female travelers in the destination, and we worked with them for a few months in to do research and assess where women were finding themselves more stressed out or like worried about their well-being while they were traveling in Tulum, and we gave them a set of actions to do to make the destination more friendly for women. On top of it, we incorporated our services in Tulum now. They recognize how needed a service like Greether is in their destination. So I've been seeing, destinations like them, and some others like in Europe, I think very fast forward thinkers, and so a lot of them have already noticed the big need of serving to cater to women. But not just them, like destinations like Morocco, they're doing a really good job at addressing these concerns, and things have improved a lot. Destinations that aren't doing it as well, I would say some countries in Asia, and I don't want to name a lot because, I think all of the tourism boards where they're seeing a lot of traffic have the opportunity to notice this trend and address it. It is true that you hear more about some destinations than others when women come back with complaints. And unfortunately, some have built a reputation around that, and that stops other new travelers from going there. And that's one of the things. Like I did begin Greether because I had an uncomfortable situation in Morocco, but I still want everyone to go. I think it's a fantastic destination. I loved it. I love the culture. People are so nice, so kind. But I did experience uncomfortable situations. So I think there's no such a thing as a unsafe place. There's unsafe people, and every place can be safe or unsafe. It really doesn't matter where you are.
So let me rephrase the question, if I may.
Mhm.
Which destination would you really, really, really love to work with and bring the
Mhm.
Greether concept that doesn't have it yet and it hasn't tapped into that potential?
Something that came to my mind right now is Egypt, or like countries like Egypt, have a really bad reputation currently with how women and actually men too feel when they're navigating. I've not personally been, so I can't say from my own criteria, but from what we read, we haven't had travelers go there yet. So definitely there's an opportunity. And actually, interestingly so, I think there's a lot of stigma, especially from travelers coming from North America in regards to going to Middle East countries. And I think there's a huge opportunity for us to do a partnership with Saudi Arabia tourism, because it's such a safe destination, but people don't know much about it. They hear all these things in the news and the media, and they're like, I don't know if it's safe for women. Can I go there? Do I have to cover my head? And there's so much culture that's happening there, and really, they're really like hospitable people. And I think we definitely could, work on a partnership there to bring awareness. Female travelers should not be having to worry about their safety. We should focus about how we enjoy a destination better, instead.
Safety is, as you said, it's not about a place not being safe. It's about people. And ill-intended people are everywhere, regardless, right? They are in Italy, they can be in France, they can be in Mexico, they can be in the US or even China or anywhere really. Even as we were just mentioning earlier, about the events that just happened in Vietnam, the poisoned alcohol that some of the backpackers had and that led to tragedy. I think that there's an opportunity for destinations to observe who is actually coming to their destinations, who is coming into their towns, into their villages, into their natural attractions, into their landmarks. Observe not just the number of the visitors, but the quality of visitors. What do they do? If I may call it the gender, such a big word nowadays, and understand really the dynamics of people visiting the destinations. When you look at the network of Greether and you observe those using the network and those instead working, so to speak, as Greether's team in the network, what is the age range that you have observed and where, in which part of the world? I'm curious because it may seem to have quite a stigma of, oh, this is something for the young people. But is it? Is it really?
We're definitely not for backpackers. Absolutely not. So actually, something happened. I began gray hair for people like me. I'm a millennial. I'm in my early 30s. I imagined that everybody who was going to be using gray hair was going to be a profile very similar to me, someone who has a little bit more money to spend on comfort, has graduated from the hostel life, wants a little bit more of a personalization and unique experiences. And that is somehow true. And actually, we're doing our end of year report as we speak and pulling the data. And every year that we've done it, it's been changing a little bit. But what happened was that we received a lot of press coverage last year. Who's watching the news is older women. And so we started seeing an uptick in bookings from women who are 40 and above, 50 and above, and even almost 80 years old traveling with gray hair. And a lot of them had never traveled before, and then they discovered gray hair and they feel confident to do it. So definitely we are from all ranges. We have also had parents who have booked greeters for their 18-year-old daughters on their first Europe trip. So I think that we do cater to a broad spectrum. In regards to who the greeters are, I would say that there is more of a specific demographic of age there. I don't know the data on top of my head because we have greeters in over 1,000 cities. I would say from what I can see, because I see their profiles, and there usually are women in their late 20s and early 30s. But depending on the destination, sometimes we have older women. I would say a lot of in Latin America, we get sometimes to work with expats, and expats sometimes tend to be a little bit on the 40 plus side. And then in countries in Europe, our greeters have a little bit more younger profile, but where we are seeing traffic the most actually is not really correlating with safety concerns right away. It's more about women are looking at our services as a way to connect with someone local and really explore a place like a true local there. It's not just about, oh, I'm going to be safer. Yes, you will be safer by default because have someone on the ground you can reach out to for help. They can tell you what places to avoid because they give you safety tips. But on top of that, it's more about having someone who can really tell you what it's like to be there as a woman. I was recently in Bosnia for the first time and I had a greeter and I went to Mostar. And if I had not had my greeter, I would not have been able to go to Black Eye, which was my first place that I needed to go to when I booked a trip to Bosnia because they don't have a bus schedule in anywhere online. You have to find it like on a newspaper somewhere. And she sent me a screenshot of it and she told me what time I needed to be and where I needed to be. So those are the type of things that people just think that worldwide you have access to things online. No, it's really different according to the place you're in. And I also got to learn from her about, Bosnia had an incredibly sad a recent past. And I got to learn about her family and how her family struggled through the war. And those are the little things that you wouldn't get from a regular tour guide as much because you will get the same speech today, Dolores, that I will get tomorrow with a tour guide. And they'll tell you the history of this wall. But this is more like having a friend It's almost like when you arrive and you have a friend living there and she's ready to show you her local gems and tell you stories. And this is what I call travel luck. I think what we do at Greet is enabling that. I think we enable it to be faster and easier because when you're on the road, you have to trust that that person's trying to do something nice for you. But with Greet you know that that person has been hired to do a good job and to treat you well and to show you a great time.
And the greeters are voluntary?
No, they get paid. So this is also how we are different from, the greeter platforms that people in Europe are used to. Uh, One of the things that we have been recognized the most is because we are targeting some of the most important SDGs, by the UN and is generating jobs for women. So every time you're using our services, you're also employing women and putting money in their hands, which creates great social impact. And it's really refreshing to know that when you're traveling, you can spend your money wisely, right? And impact the local economies. And that is one of our number one, things is like, how do we keep employing women? And every time that we have a new destination, it's exciting, because we're like, okay, now we're employing women in Cambodia. Now we can start enrolling women in Uzbekistan, so it's really exciting to see that. And for our travelers to tell us, I booked a greeter because I wanted to impact women's economy too. And there is something about it that is just so magical. A lot of times these women are mothers, they needed extra income. A lot of times there maybe are tour guides already, but they're not getting as many bookings. So this is another platform for them to get more income. A lot of times they're students. And when you're a student, you're struggling usually. So this is a great way to earn, a gig economy supplement income.
It's about empowerment as well. I mean, I'm thinking the Western countries and the Western cultures seems quite normal that we help someone and we put ourselves out there to become a greeter, for example. I'm also thinking at this as a tool of empowerment for those cultures where the stereotype of a woman in the street walking with strangers, even foreigners, it's actually a very contradictory sort of contrasted sort of concept. For example, Middle East or Asia or even certain areas of Africa, it's not that easy to have a woman that decides to, even though they want the extra income, and this is absolutely legit and there's nothing wrong with it, but traditionally they have to fight against the mentality of the place. Have you come across stories like this where potential destinations or potential greeters was like, really would love to do it, but the whole scenario around them would prevent them from doing it?
Not yet, fortunately, not necessarily. However, in some destinations, it has been harder for us to find them. They're not, sometimes in some destinations, women have different access to technology, so they're harder to find. Or unfortunately, they don't speak English in some destinations, so we can't have them because most of our travelers are English speakers, and it's unfortunate, it's frustrating. We're like, oh my God, we really want you to have, to be in our platform. But that is one of the reasons we created the greeter concept in our company is because there is a lack of licensed female tour guides. So this is kind of a hybrid. It also provides an opportunity for women who were interested to join the industry, but they weren't allowed to because of society or cultural norms. There is a huge gap in the industry in which, unfortunately, there's not enough. We're actually working, currently, we're planning with the Women in Travel out of London with Alessandra. We're constantly on calls and trying to see how can we train more women, how can we bring them into the industry. Yes, there is places where it's harder for them to gain so some independence and earn an income. But we've had success, for example, we had greeters in Tanzania, in villages, and we've had greeters in places like Jordan. We have greeters now registered. We haven't had travelers go there, but in Mongolia. And actually, we received a request from these female guides in out of Afghanistan, and it's really crazy. You know, they're doing a lot of great things on social media, and we're like, yes, we want you. We don't know if we're going to bring you travelers soon, but it's great to have them on a platform for when travelers are ready to go to these places. We also get requests sometimes from places that we don't have greeters in, and if we have enough time, we'll try to find them. But we have failed in destinations like Sri Lanka. We had a traveler going there, couldn't find someone there. So this is a call. If you guys know any Sri Lankan possible greeters, please send them our way. So we're always looking for more, and we are sure that as we grow, we're gonna see those trends you mentioned. For the most part, women are really excited to support each other, you know, and as you said, it is about empowerment. We do see a lot of friendships being formed. We are also seeing travelers using us for the aspect of feeling less lonely, and that is such a win. Definitely see that there is a niche there for women, people who feel lonely. They don't want to do things alone. We had traveler book a greeter tickets to go to Disneyland in Paris with her because she just wanted someone to go with her to Disneyland. It's more fun to go with someone there, you know? We've had travelers who took their greeters on a movie premiere. Literally, people have made it whatever they decide to, and it really is fascinating because it's serving a really need that big need, you know, that were looking for.
Funny you mentioned it. I've been to Sri Lanka many times, and in my days when I was working in Maldives, and I cannot imagine a more hospitable country. So I really, really hope that even with this podcast, I know we have a lot of people listening from Sri Lanka. If you have anyone that you think could fit the persona and could actually be the perfect greeter to the destination, get in touch with Vanessa. And anyway, we will have show notes, links to get in touch with you and with the platform. And lastly, if I look back at the path, very young path, very new, very recent path of Greet Her, I see a lot of awards and a lot of recognitions. You've won everything that is to be won as a startup. And now let's look together at the future of Greet Her and where does that future is going to take you and your team, and what do you envision for it?
I really want Greet Her to be the platform where anytime a woman is traveling, they're coming to us. Right now, we're serving a service, but we're noticing a lot of demand for other products. And so we're working on it. We really are excited to begin partnerships with, as I mentioned, destinations, but also with brands. We currently have a pilot out with Expedia, for example. We're looking at, you know, how can we empower women just beyond our services through technology and enhance your experience while you're there, but also help our travelers support women-owned businesses in the destinations you're traveling to. So this is a call for anyone who's listening. You have a service in a destination that, you know, serves female travelers, or like potentially you could use some female travelers as your customers. Reach out to us because we're already working on a product for this, and we really want to be that platform where, you know, women that are looking for the best recommendations for accommodations and, you know, activities to do in these places. We're working on that. So that's how we see our path. And we began this year with B2B partnerships, and, you know, before we weren't doing that. So we are going through that path, and you know, as the year begins, we're going to be strategizing of how to do that better. But of course, you know, we're still a startup. It's still our focus still to serve our most important need and our mission, and how to make it better with technology and human power.
I think every travel gives an opportunity for people to connect on something that they can, on something that they have in common, so to speak. And I think on this platform, specifically on Greet Her, you will find people that will help you find what you like and will make it do it with you. Like they will join you along the way. They won't just, you know, usher you there and then leave you alone. And I love the connectivity part of it, the social aspects, the empowerment, the the new energy, the new ideas. So thank you so much for bringing all this on the podcast. There are many people, many of the podcast guests have mentioned the success of Greether and the idea that propelled this project to become a reality. So what I will do is to leave an open door on the podcast and have you back when you don't call yourself a startup anymore, and tell me how that looks like, how that feels like, and how has Greether changed at the meantime and what it has become. Deal?
Deal. Yeah, let's do
Okay.
it.
Love the concept and the energy. All the best for all the work ahead. I know there's a lot, but there's a lot of energy to go with it. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Dolores, and goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for joining me on the podcast today with yet another value-driven conversation that I hope has inspired you to lead from the heart, follow your intuitions, and just like Vanessa did during her personal experience in Morocco, make your way forward to help others, the environment, and the world we live in. I hope these conversations on the podcast are thought-provoking for you as they are for me. If you enjoyed this episode, I think you will also like a couple of other similar conversations we've had on the show. All you need to do is to head over to your podcast app of choice and find Truth Behind Travel Podcast. And if you have a story to tell, get in touch with me. Until next time, goodbye, my friends.